Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about all of my DNFs of 2022. I definitely did not think I was going to have enough books to talk about in a separate video. I was going to do DNFs and my top 10 worst books together, but I actually have enough to make a small video about all my DNFs that I did this year, which is kind of shocking. So for me, a DNF qualifies as if I've read at least 50 pages, because I am definitely a mood reader. So I will pick books up, read 5 pages, put it down, and read it in like a year. So I don't qualify everything as a DNF because I would have a lot. I would have a lot. And half the books that I've read would have been DNFs at one point. So for me, it has to be 50 pages and something I don't intend to read for a while. Like there are two books on here that are potentially current DNFs. I don't know. I haven't decided if I'm going to go back to them or not. So I'm going to include them just in case, but we'll talk about what's up when we get to them. When I DNF a book, most of the time it's because I'm bored. It doesn't mean the book is necessarily bad. I could probably finish it and it would be like a 2 or a 3. But if I know it's going that direction and I don't feel like there's anything that is going to save it, it's gonna be a DNF. Like I'm not gonna finish a book if I think it's just gonna be a 2 or a 3 because of boredom. Boredom is like the key word here. Most of these books I just DNF because they were boring. Also, these are in no particular order, and like I said, none of these, well, some of them are bad books, but none of them are like outright bad books. That is saved for in the worst books that I read this year. So anyway, let's get started on my DNFs this year. The first one that I want to talk about is actually a magical realism book, and it is called Siren Queen. I actually got through 120 pages of this book, and I just couldn't push any further. I was trying to finish it because it was a book of the month book, so I had bought it, and I liked the concept. The concept is something I'm obsessed with because it's all about like old Hollywood, but the magical realism was so weird and I was so not enjoying it that I was like, I'm confused what's real, I'm confused what's not real, I don't understand what's happening. So I feel like magical realism to that extent is probably not for me. Like I found this year that magical realism like that, I don't really like that kind of mix of things. It was too confusing for me. There was no rules. Like that sort of thing. I don't like when there's no obvious rules going on. So for me, this was a very sad DNF because I was really, really excited about this book, but it was too weird for me. The next one on my list is The Magnolia Palace. This is another one that is outside of my comfort zone. It is a historical fiction book that follows like a model, but and she gets like a gig at this house, and then you're actually also learning about like the history of the house. I think I made it to 50 pages of this and I was like, this is not it. I am not a historical fiction reader. That was actually one of my goals this year, was to read more genres outside my comfort zone. So I attempted that with The Magnolia Palace and it crashed and burned. I did not enjoy this, did not have a good time. I can see why other people liked it though. That's the difference with these DNFs is my worst books, I don't understand how people can like them. For some of my DNFs, I get it. Like I get why people like them. They're just not for me. They're not for me. So yeah, DNF The Magnolia Palace pretty quickly. It barely made the cutoff for my DNFs because I really didn't get through that much of it. The next book on my list is Love and Other Disasters, which was a huge like sadness for me. There is one thing above everything else that will make me DNF a book, and it is if I don't like the writing. I did not like the writing style of this author. I also was a bit disappointed because Love and Other Disasters is following a cooking show. It's literally, I love romance. It's a romance book following a couple, well, they're not a couple obviously at the beginning, but they go on a cooking show, and I was expecting more like cooking show action because I love cooking shows. That was one of my selling points for this book, was cooking show action. We're gonna like show the competition, etc. No, it could have been set anywhere else. It could have been set anywhere else. The cooking part wasn't even remotely important, which kind of put me off on the book. It felt like I was tricked. And then I also didn't love the characters, and I didn't feel any connection between the characters, which was highly disappointing. So if I don't feel any connection between the characters and I don't like the writing, and I blame the writing for that. I think the writing was the issue with this book, not the characters themselves. I feel like the author didn't do a good job of connecting them together, unfortunately. So if I don't feel any connection between characters in a romance, there's no point reading forward this with this for me. I think I got like 75 pages and I was just like, not it. This isn't it. There are a million other romance books in this house that I want to read that will do a better job of just the general writing. So I ended up DNFing that one. The next one that I want to talk about is one of my potential DNFs. I might go back to it. I'm holding on to both the books, but I DNF'd We Hunt the Flame. This should be a slam dunk for me. I love young adult. I love fantasy. I love the forbidden romance kind of thing going on. But my goodness, I got 150 pages into We Hunt the Flames and I was so bored. I was so bored and I was like, how is this so popular? I don't understand. Am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something. Maybe I'm reading not at a good time. So I DNF'd it at 150 pages, but I've kind of held my place and I remember like the stuff that happened in it. So that kind of points me to, okay, maybe I just really wasn't feeling young adult fantasy while I was reading this. So, because if I don't like a book, I tend not to remember a lot that happens in it. Well, if I really hate a book, I remember everything. But if I'm kind of just and not feeling it, I won't remember a lot that happens in it. But I did remember quite a bit that happened like in the 150 pages, which, I mean, it wasn't that much. But that is a current DNF. Unsure if I will be going back to that because I have so many other books that I'd rather read. So it's kind of just like sitting there. Maybe I'll read it for like a video next year. I don't know. I'm very torn on that duology. The next one that I DNF'd is a surprise, but also not at the same time. This is on me. This is on me. It's called Firstborn. It was a book of the month and it follows twins. If you've seen anything on this channel, you probably know there are certain things I don't like in books, and twins is one of them. I don't read books about twins, but I saw really good things about this one, so I was like, let's just pick it up. And I think it was the only thriller for that month, maybe. So I was like, I always get a thriller from Book of the Month every month because that's where I get most of my thrillers, because I read them so fast. I hate buying them full price. So I got that, and I think I made it. I did not make it far, maybe 50 pages, and I was like, I hate this. I hate this so much. And then I actually skimmed all the way to the end, read the ending, and was like, this is so stupid. So this is kind of the first book I really didn't like Love and Other Disasters, whatever. I probably could have finished it and been like, whatever. I just didn't feel that connection. Firstborn is the first book that I was like, wasted my time reading even 50 pages of that book. So that was a big DNF. Like I said, not a lot can make me DNF thrillers. That was one of them. The next one that I read was another one out of my comfort zone. Young adult retelling of a book that I don't like. I don't know why I did that. Like it came in a book box, so I was like, why not? I should have just skipped that month instead. But it is What Souls Are Made Of, and it is a remix retelling of Wuthering Heights. I don't like Wuthering Heights. I didn't like this. I think I made it 50 pages in, and it's literally 2 points of view, and they're just constantly whining, and it was so boring. Oh my gosh, it was so boring. It was so boring, and I could not go on. And I went to the end of the book, and I was just like, it was pointless. This book was legitimately pointless. So that was a easy DNF for me. Had no problems DNFing that one. The next one that we're going to talk about, it's very briefly going to talk about it because it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. This should have been a 5-star read because the first one was a 5-star read. And I actually read this for my completing the series vlog, if you want to go check that out for my full spoilers, full rant, etc. But I DNF'd All of Our Demise. It is the second book in the All of Us Villains, something like that, duology. I feel like part of me should have known. Part of me should have known that it was going to be awful because Amanda Foody has broken my heart before with, I still have them because they upset me so much I don't want to get rid of them, what is it, the Ace of Shades series. I still have them, but they broke my heart with how bad they got. The first book was a 5-star. Books 2 and 3 were 2 stars. Same thing happened with this duology. First book was a 5-star. Second book was a DNF. Because everything changed. She changed everything so much, it was just, I wasn't interested. This broke my heart. Would have been on worst books of the year list if I had finished it. It's how much I hated what they changed in it. I talk about in the video what they changed, what I would have done instead. Yeah. It makes me so mad. Okay, we gotta move on because I could spend an hour talking about that. The next one that I DNF'd, like I said, they're not anywhere. When I say next, it's just what I remembered when I wrote down the list. The Overnight Guest. I actually was trying to read this for reading all the Goodreads Choice Awards, and I felt tricked into reading this as well. I feel like I read the synopsis, thought it was one thing, started reading it, it was something completely different. Didn't like the concept whatsoever, so I ended up DNFing it because I was just like, I don't have time for this, and I don't really want to read this, so that's pretty much it. The next one, I think it was a current DNF, but I think it's going to be a permanent DNF, and it's The Change. And this is another book of the month one. It's out of my comfort zone. It's about a group of older women who are going through like menopause, but they're actually getting like powers at the same time, something like that. Everyone loves this book, but I got triggered with it's really hard to trigger me in a book. There are certain things talking about old age and HOAs, apparently, because I hate mine. We were going through so much BS with our HOA at the time that I started reading this that I was like, I literally can't read this because I want to tear this book into shreds. But they're talking about people in the HOA making fuss about things, blah, blah, and I was just like, I'm done. I read 50 pages. It's just not for me. We'll see. Maybe in a couple years, I may like it better. But the more I think about it, the less I want to read it. So I don't think I'm going to pick it up again. But I'm glad everyone else seemed to like it, but it was not for me. The next one on my list is one I will pick up again. I just have no idea when it's going to be. Because another one of my triggers is the pandemic. I don't like reading anything currently that has anything pandemic related, even if it's not to do with this pandemic, which is funny because I'm fine with historical nonfiction. Like nonfiction, I have tons, because if you haven't watched any other videos, I have a master's in public health of infectious diseases. So I read about infectious diseases all the time. I read about pandemics all the time, but I was very enmeshed in the pandemic. And so for some reason, fictional accounts of pandemics just trigger me right now. I can read all of the nonfiction accounts of the Black Plague and the Spanish flu, etc. Zero problems. The second I read a book that has a fictionalized version of a pandemic, I'm done. I'm out. I'm out. And so I haven't read 56 Days by Catherine Ryan, although I don't think I'm gonna read that one because I really didn't like the book I read by her this year. But Station 11, I plan to pick it up again. I'm going to be keeping it. I just don't know when I'm going to be picking it up again. I don't know when. It depends when my mood changes. Maybe next year, probably late next year, maybe the year after. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. The next one that I DNF'd was another kind of heartbreaker for me, and it's Escape Room, and it's the same author who wrote my favorite thriller so far of all time, the Night Swim. Literally made like 6 people read it. I love that book so much. And I hated this book. It was so boring. Again, it's another one of those thrillers. I never DNF thrillers. The fact that I DNF'd this is just shocking. It's shocking. I so did not like this. I so did not like this. And I ended up DNFing probably 200 pages in. I tried really hard with this book. I tried reading it physically. I tried listening to it on an audiobook. I tried everything to get through this book, and I could not do it. And I could not tell you, I literally just DNF'd this like a month ago. I could not tell you a single thing that happened in it. And I reread chapters trying to understand it. Could not tell you anything that happened in it. So, highly unfortunate, but that was a big miss and a big disappointment for me. Okay, we are down to the last 3, and I didn't know if I wanted to include these in this video because they're actually my DNFs from December. I DNF'd 3 books in December so far. It was brutal. It was brutal. One of them was not, or 2 of them were not expected. One of them kind of expected it, but I didn't know if I want to put it in here to leave it in just my wrap up, but it's the DNFs of 2022. Technically, I've DNF'd them, so we're going to be talking about them really briefly. First, I DNF'd the Thursday Murder Club. I hated it. I read 150 pages, and I know why I didn't like it. I don't like British mystery books. I don't know what it is. Well, for the most part, like if they were like Lane Moriarty, is it Lane Moriarty books? Big Little Lies, Apples Never Fall. That author, I hate her books. I hate them. And anything similar written with like heavy British humor and British stuff, for some reason my brain hates it, and I don't know why. There's other books that I've read that are written by British authors, and it's fine, but there's something about the way Richard Osman wrote it, and there's something about the way Lane Moriarty wrote her books. There's something in my brain that connects the two, and I don't like them for the same reason. I don't know what it is, but I just found them both so boring, and it just, yeah, so yeah, Thursday Murder Club. I bought all 3 books too. 2 of them in hardback. And I'm not reading any of them, but I gave it a try. I put down Thursday Murder Club like 4 times and kept picking it back up, and I didn't like it, and it breaks my heart because those covers are so pretty, and I like the concept. I also think it was triggering me a little bit because, like I said earlier, I don't like when old age is talked about. I have few fears in this world. One of my fears is bugs. Any bugs, except ladybugs. I love ladybugs, except when they fly. Anything that flies freaks me out. Number 2 is old age. I know it's one of those things to be weird about, but I could care less until I married Lucas, and now I'm petrified of losing my husband. We've been together for 10 years, petrified of it. And I blame him all the time. I'm like, I was fine. I was unhinged before you. Now I actually care. So listening to them talk about like people dying in the retirement home and all this stuff, I was just like, I can't do this. So that was a big factor as well. It was freaking me out. But I also just found it really, really boring. So it's really sad. That I DNF'd is actually one that made me finally cancel a book box subscription. I DNF'd Death by Society, which is really sad because it's like so pretty. It's so pretty. I'm really sad, and it's signed, and it's like, I think this has like stuff. Yeah, look at that. It's beautiful. But this had some of the worst writing I've ever heard. So this actually was Unplugged Book Box's December box, I believe, and I really didn't like it. It really had some of the worst writing. It's supposed to be a young adult, like, not retelling, but it's supposed to be inspired by, like, Mean Girls and all this stuff, but you're following a girl who tries to commit suicide and is stopped by one of the mean girls, and they all become ostracized. It's very odd, and I was like, okay, we'll give it a shot, and I read about 50 pages, and the writing is just so bad. It's so bad, and it made me cancel Unplugged Book Box because I feel like the last couple books have just, the books that they're picking, I'm just not interested in anymore. They've changed kind of what they've been picking. So, yikes, this was really bad. And this breaks my heart because it's so pretty. It's so pretty, and I like the idea behind it for the most part, but it was really bad. And the last book that I DNF'd this year, hopefully there's no more in my like wrap up. You'll see if there's any more, but we only have like 10 days left, something like that. 11, 12, something like that, left in December. So I am hoping there's no more DNFs because I'm only picking things that I know I'm liking at this point. Although that's what I tried with this book, The Cloisters. If you know anything about this book, it says it's secret history meets ninth house and secret society working in a museum. It's everything that I love. It's everything that I love, except here's the issue and why I DNF'd it. Number one, it was really boring. I wasn't interested in it. I was so bored. I was so bored. Again, like I said, most of DNFs I do are because they're really boring books. Maybe I would have liked it by the end, but I just didn't have it in me to read it. And here's the reason why. When something says Ninth House, I'm 100% in. I love Ninth House. Ninth House is one of my favorite books ever. I am feral waiting for Hellbent. You do not even know how feral I am over waiting for that book. Oh my gosh, I loved Ninth House. It was one of those books that I read and everyone else was going, oh, it's so boring, it's so boring. And I read it and I was like, what are you talking about? So I'm glad everyone has kind of came around and is now super excited for Hellbent. But it also said The Secret History. And if you know anything about me, you know The Secret History is my least favorite book in existence. Actually, until this year, I found my new least favorite book. There is a book I hated more than that. It's very rare. That doesn't happen. The Secret History is a book that I literally was foaming at the mouth. I hated it so much. It induced a rage that burns inside of me till this day. And I read it like 5 years ago. And it just is, anytime I think about it, the fire reignites and I just start seething about how much time I wasted on it, how stupid the book was. And I know everyone loves it, which is why I finished it. I read that whole freaking book because people are like, oh, it was so good. It was so good. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was terrible. Anyway, Secret History meets Ninth House. More like Secret History meets Secret History. Yeah, for me, this was unlikable characters like The Secret History, very stuck-up people like The Secret History, idiots like The Secret History. There's literally nothing in common except for like the vibes, and it vibed Secret History. So if you like Secret History, might as well give it a shot. If you didn't like The Secret History, don't read this probably. I don't know. It just gave me the vibes. It may have nothing to do with it, but because it's not really, it takes place in a museum, not a school, but the vibes are the same. And it's just so many stuck up people. I hate them. So Secret History vibes, hated it. DNF'd it, and I tried to push this one. I think 100 pages. I think I got 100 pages. Not it. It was not it. Anyway, those are all my DNFs for this year. I had a shocking number. I did not think I would have that many. This video turned out to be a lot longer than I thought because some of these books made me angry, which I wasn't really expecting. I forgot what was on this list, to be honest. Anyway, those are my DNFs of the year. Very sad. I hate DNFing books. I hate it. I dislike disliking books. I know it seems like I enjoy like ripping them apart, but I don't. If I only read books from now on that I liked, I would be a very happy person and much less stressed. But the fact of the matter is, there's gonna be duds out there, and unfortunately, this was a list of duds for me. And remember, these are my opinions. Some of these books on here maybe have been your favorite books. I don't know. It's kind of what everyone's taste is different. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys in this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.